chance to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, we're back again with a new episode of the 28-3 podcast, coming off what I can only describe as a brutal performance against the Minnesota Vikings this week. In my opinion, the worst game we've played collectively as a team all season. Corey, kind of where do you want to guide this and where do you want to start? Because there's a whole lot of bad stuff to talk about, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, it's like, we said it in the preview pod. The game was crucial, and it was just all the things that we said we had to look out for as possibilities all came to fruition. It's like, all right, it's Josh Dobbs. Sure, he's inexperienced, but we need to make sure that the Josh Dobbs wave that happened in that first game, that surprise, didn't happen. Well, it happened. We said the defense had to figure out a way to just cut it out with these slow starts, just play to the best of their strengths, like play to the talent level or, the results that we saw out of them in the first quarter of the season or so. That didn't happen. In fact, it was worse. I mean, it went from a slow start to an entire slow first half. It was utterly ridiculous. And to me, it's almost fitting that, it's a game where Jameis comes in, Mr. God's plan at quarterback, because it's like the team in the first half or, the whole game, it's just like they're just throwing it up to God. It's like there's no organization from the coaching angle. Pete Carmichael, the bad Pete Carmichael showed up again. Whatever progress he had made from, post-Bucs game, whatever we saw in the Colts game, whatever red zone efficiency we saw last game with the win in the Dome against the Bears, that shit just wasn't there. And I'm not here for the people who are saying that, look at how well Jameis did. Jameis came in when it was prime Jameis opportunity. Jameis came in when we're down by 24 points, which is exactly where he wants to be, because it's not just better for him to sling it all over the yard. He has to sling it all over the yard at that point. So it was a tailor-made situation for him. And guess what? When we really needed that one score, he still throws a pick. And not knocking Jameis the person and not having a whole Carr versus Jameis debate, because obviously if we're really going to get into it over Jameis versus Carr, then what are we even doing? It was frustrating on so many levels, and it just really highlighted the fact that this team, even if it makes a run at the division, even if it wins the division title, is just not it. And they're not coached the way they need to be coached. So, yeah, and that's just a little bit of what I have to say about it.
Max, what you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that was the worst performance of the season, from top to bottom, start to finish. Everything was bad, whether it was the coaching, whether it was the play calls, the players themselves. When you're seeing Shaheed lining up like 3 yards off sides on a simple route, I mean, what the hell are you doing? It was bad. We're not going to, like Corey said, there's no need to litigate the whole Jameis versus Carr thing, because honestly, they are both bad quarterbacks. You're not winning a title with either of them. And I said this for the last couple of weeks. I harped on we had to be 6-4 going into the bye week, for that week off before the Atlanta game, for me to feel good about where we are. We're obviously 5-5. I don't feel good at all about where we are. And, to be honest with you,
well, let me ask
I don't
you
think
a
the
question.
team does either, man. When you got Cam Jordan posting his – what you got?
I don't disagree, but I would also say, all of us have kind of gone back and forth about how bad the whole league seems to look. I mean, I haven't spent a full weekend watching as many games as possible. This was the first weekend I did that. I watched 4 different games, actually 5. Watched the Germany game, and then 3 on Sunday, and watched the Monday night game. The state of the NFL, as far as, good looking football, is really rough right now. I mean, it's kind of crazy. There's only a handful of teams that I think are actually performing well at all consistently. You see Jacksonville, who we all, kind of sang their praise a little bit after their win streak. They got blown out of the building. The Bills losing again, just melting down with 4 turnovers and 12 men on the field on a field goal that was missed to lose the game. And you watch, the Sunday night game with the Raiders and Jets, and good God, I mean, the Raiders are running out the clock. Josh Jacobs fumbles. The Jets get the ball, drive back down. They're inside the 20, trying to score a winning touchdown. And Zach Wilson throws a ridiculous pick straight to a linebacker. I mean, the only thing that I guess is positive, in my opinion, about what's going on is it doesn't seem like anyone's running away from anybody. I mean, the Bengals right now aren't in the playoffs. The Bills are not in the playoffs. It's kind of wide open.
We have
for anyone who can get their shit together can make a run. So it has nothing to do with us. It just has to do with kind of where the league's at right now, where I'm not completely giving up, but it's not good.
Well, let me say this. So you say it's wide open for anyone who can get their shit together. This team is not getting their shit together. We've watched them enough. They are who they are. We've had maybe 1 or 2 competent games where you look at them on offense and say, okay, they look like a cohesive unit. They look like they've had some decent coaching. And that's maybe been 1.5 game. Like, for the most part, they're a bad fucking team and a non-entertaining team to watch. Like, it is a painful watch right now. And then the defense, all of a sudden, they're following suit. Like, the defense has been terrible the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm disregarding what they did in the second half, man, because you can't spot another team a 17-point lead or whatever it is the last couple of weeks on average and expect this offense to come back.
Yeah, no, I agree. And here's my problem with, I agree with you, Nick, that the whole league is down as a whole. But the more, and it's not you, it's just because you hear that all over the place. But the more I hear that, the more pissed off I get, because what better time for us with all the talent that we have on our team to be taking advantage of that? No other team has a complement of talent like we do. If you look at it objectively, with Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill. I'm not even putting Derek Carr in that boat, but he certainly has enough there to be a facilitator of the talent around him. We're not even getting into the guy who led the league in goal line touchdowns or in touchdowns period from the running back position last year. So when I hear the whole league is down, this should be our time to take advantage of that. And the way you take advantage of that is with talent and then coaches who simply don't get in those players' way. And I think right now, and at least this Vikings game has shown, that our coaches are getting in our way. I think Pete Carmichael is getting in the way. Now, look, the All-22, everyone loves to do the All-22. I don't. I'll let everybody else do it. But yeah, Derek Carr got awful on some missed opportunities down deep. So it's not as though Pete wasn't dialing it up down deep or calling the right plays to take advantage of some weaknesses in the Vikings backfield. But there is just, you can just see that, like Max said, the product that we have on the field is not at the snuff. The product that we are putting on the field is not getting it done. And it's not as though we're devoid of talent. There's a lot of teams that just don't have the players. We have the players, and we're not getting it done. And it's frustrating as hell.
I feel like you're giving them a pass. That was pathetic performance by a bunch of people this week. Shaheed was lost this week. First time I've ever said that. That offsides is, that's coaching. He doesn't even know where to line up on the line of scrimmage. A.T. Perry makes an incredible catch. We're all excited. Then he drops a 25-yard catch. MT drops the first pass.
You're goddamn right it's coaching, because if he was coached better.
I think that's a ridiculous stance.
It is coaching. It is coaching, because these guys, they're getting a pass for this shit, because it's like they continually are doing the same fucking stuff over and over and over again. It's a broken record, whether it's offsides, whether it's false starts, whether it's,
Yeah, but Morrow did it
as a whole.
Remember the still shot from Morrow like 4 or 5 weeks ago? That dude was also about 2 or 3 yards on the wrong side of the line of scrimmage. If the team is well coached, that shit never happens, period. That shit would never happen on a Belichick team. That shit would never happen on
it's even this year.
Mike McDaniel team. The younger coaches that know it. It just, on a well-coached team, it does not happen. Yet our guys just, if you're lost as a player, well, guess who's there to get you not lost as a player? Your coach in practice. They're in practice more than they're in games. and they're playing like no one's telling them to play with any discipline.
So most coaches around the league are spending time in practice telling them how to line up on the line of scrimmage, is what you're saying. In week 10, week 11 of the NFL season, I mean, come on, man. That's basic shit. That's stuff that kid's been doing his whole life. He just fucked up.
Yeah, but it doesn't. But at the same point, these coaches, and they've documented this multiple times, it's from the different beat writers. They've talked about how this coaching staff goes over fundamentals in the first couple of weeks. Like, they actually do coach this shit. And apparently they didn't spend enough time on it. Look, Shaheed's brand new. He's basically brand new to the wide receiver position.
Well, that's a whole other debate.
He came from a tiny school. He hasn't had one training camp with us. He's been injured for both training camps. Like, he's still learning. He's basically brand new to this. Now, I'm not giving him a pass. I mean, look, he looked over to the official and did the whole, with a point and with the sideline official, and the sideline official usually confirms, yes, you're where you're supposed to be, or you're not offside.
Yeah, I mean, it takes two to tango. We're not saying that it's 100% on the coaches. I mean, obviously, Shaheed takes a lot of most of the blame in that particular situation. But if the coaches were better, if this team was better coached, then that it wouldn't even be a concern. I mean, it'd be one thing if that was the only time that's happened this year, but it's happened. The exact same thing has happened with another player at a completely different position on the same offense. And, the team just doesn't seem to have the same, discipline culture that it has. And it's games like this bring all this shit back up. The Twitter streets are going crazy right now with all these different takes. And I'll just, before I let y'all get back, one thing I've been seeing, this idea of fun, we're arguing whether or not, like, people are like, oh, Jameis came in and yeah, he's more risky than Carr, but damn, that was fun to watch. We're cheering for fun now. That is not fun. That is not fun. I'm just rooting for fun. Like, I hope the Falcons game is fun. I hope the games are fun to watch. Well, yeah, of course, I hope the games are fun. But we've gone from looking at the standard, and I think the standard that we had previously set under Peyton, which is very quickly, almost completely washed away, and the talent that we brought to the fold this year. Our standard has never been, nor should it have ever been, quote, fun. And here we are looking at the home stretch of the season talking about, I don't know. I mean, yeah, we're not playing well, but I hope we have fun.
Time out. Let me push back on that, because I get what these people are saying, because, it's, if you're going to suck, and Nick always brings up this scenario, he's like, well, if we do tank and you end up drafting a quarterback who's like a Zach Wilson, it's going to suck. It's like, yeah, that can happen, but I want to at least just entertain me if we're going to suck. You know what I mean? Like, if we're going to lose these games, be entertaining. This team is not entertaining, man. I said this when you and I were at the game together a week ago. That was not fun. We won the game. That game sucked. Well, that whole game was awful. It was like having open heart surgery without any anesthesia.
Where do you draw the line, though, of like getting the team to a place where they don't suck so that they allow you to have fun? Because
my problem is that we suck and we're not entertaining in any which way.
The chances of a team that sucks to entertain you in any world is pretty minimal.
No, not really. Because I'll use the Saints with the worst defense in NFL history. I forget which season it was, 2013, 14, 15, one of those years. And the offense was as great as it always is, but the defense was the worst defense in NFL history. So we ended up going 7-9. But the games were entertaining. It was shootouts, and you thought you had a chance to win. I don't think we have a chance to win, like in the games. Like, we went down. I texted Nick. He said something like, I'm going to go to Walmart and get James a gift. I'm like, yeah, I might go to Hanson's and get a snowball. It's just fucking pointless to watch. And Jameis came in, and look, Jameis threw like one really good pass out of all of his attempts. Let's be honest. The one to Olave
was amazing.
It was a beautiful pass. Beautiful. The one to A.T. Perry, he never should have thrown that. Like, that should have been intercepted. Like, I'm amazed that it wasn't intercepted.
43.
That's not the point. It's like, it was terrible. It was a terrible performance. But the reality is
43 air yards the wrong way.
Yeah, but guess what, though? For those 20 minutes or so that he was in the game, I got interested again. I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe he can pull this off, because the Vikings all of a sudden decided to stop being aggressive, and they kept giving us chances. And it got somewhat entertaining. That first half was awful. I was literally about to turn the TV off and leave and go do something else. Like, it was terrible. Not fun to watch, just awful. And then if Carr stays in the game, I don't think we had a chance of coming back.
I don't know about that.
He was
Because
clearly
look, to Jameis's credit, and I hate to give him this credit, but like the second he came in, all of a sudden someone brought the paddles out and shot Chris Olave back to life, and that motherfucker was jumping around, running around. He was all full of fire and making catches.
yeah.
Like,
Well, on the play,
it was
where
ridiculous.
Carr got hurt, the play Carr got hurt was to Olave. We were down around the 30 when he got knocked out. We were driving straight down the field. Then Jameis comes in, beautiful pass, only place you can put it, better catch by Olave. It was incredible. But other than that, I mean, this debate of Jameis, I know we don't want to get too much into it. He was terrible after that. Terrible. It wasn't just not good. It was awful.
Mm-hmm.
It was,
agree.
I mean, 13 of 25, 2 picks, should have been a third. I mean, the touchdown that, he gets a touchdown on the stat sheet, that was a terrible decision. By any measure, a terrible decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Agree.
And
we're stuck with Carr either way, in my opinion. We're stuck with whatever he ends up being.
No, we are. We are.
And, hopefully it gets better. This game was not good until that one drive where he got hurt. I still don't know how that wasn't a penalty. Once again, he doesn't get the call. I know Corey had a problem with the other game he got knocked out of being driven into the ground. This one he got high load, may have even been hit in the head, concussion.
Yeah.
We just don't get these calls somehow. Even in the Drew era, we didn't. And, not that has anything to do with it.
And look,
any of
it
the
absolutely
play.
Right.
Go ahead.
It absolutely was a penalty. And look, this also brings us back to what I said on the preview episode for the season, where I said it's a horrible idea to have Jameis on the team right now. Because the second Carr strings together a bad game or multiple bad games, the Jameis hive is going to come out in full force. What happens yesterday or the other day? Jameis comes in, throws a couple of touchdowns. The Jameis hive is going fucking bananas right now on Twitter and social media in general. You got Stan Verrett, who's a well-respected, sports reporter for ESPN. We got him talking about, Jameis should be getting the reps, in first team leading up to the Falcons game, and he should get to start the rest of the season. It's like, this is the exact fucking thing we did not need to happen. Like, you're much better off putting in Jake Haener at that point and just letting him take his lumps, throw 2 or 3 interceptions, and the Saints get blown out. And then everyone's going to be like, okay, once Carr gets healthy, we'll have a chance again. It'll look better. The second Jameis comes in, though, and throws 2 touchdowns, no matter how ludicrous the second one was, it just makes it look bad.
But just for context, and we all know it was a limited sample, real quick, and then Corey, you go. Jameis has a 56 quarterback rating this year. He's thrown 42 passes. He's got 2 touchdowns and 3 picks. What are people seeing just because he slings it all over and doesn't care what happens? I mean, go ahead, Corey. Sorry, just had to get that in there.
No, I mean, I was going to say, well, for there's a main point I'm going to get to here, but the first thing is that it's not a debate. Derek Carr gives you a better chance to win over the course of a season than Jameis Winston. That is just not up for debate. Okay, quarterback to quarterback, Derek Carr. I'm not saying he's great or he's so good, and I'm not a Derek Carr apologist. I'm just saying, out of who you have, that's the guy you have to go with if you're being an objective football guy. Now, second, and my main point, and one thing that bothered me the most out of this post-game aftermath, and it's like these games really bring out the worst takes in the world. And the one I'm about to get into, some of y'all listening to this, we often agree with each other, but respectfully, I hate this take from a lot of y'all that are out there. There's this whole thing floating around about, oh man, or this notion that, God, the players just lit up when Jameis came in. You could just see how more motivated they were and into the game they were. Clearly, oh, these guys don't like Derek Carr, especially people pointing to Olave. And we've drug Olave about this, and this isn't about dragging Olave. This isn't about defending Derek Carr or apologizing for him. He had his shit moments in this game for sure. He wasn't pulling the trigger when he had to. So it would have been a rough go either way with Carr. My problem is that it goes back to the coaching and the culture of this team. Do we really have professional athletes, NFL players, who are so in their feels that they're going to play different for one quarterback on the field and not the other? Are you really not professional enough as an NFL athlete to go give it 100%, go get that ball, go run the route you're supposed to run, regardless of who's behind center. This whole idea of like, oh, they want to play for Jameis more than they want to play for Derek Carr. Leave that shit in college, okay? That's for the college football playoff. That's for Division II. I mean, it's just infuriating to me that we're even okay with guys who people think play harder for one quarterback versus the other. Yeah, does that mean that Derek Carr has to maybe look himself in the mirror and say, what am I doing to not galvanize the team? Of course, yes, Derek Carr needs to do that. But I look at a guy like, who's on the other side of that coin, like Michael Thomas. I think that dude is giving 100% effort, playing like a dog, no matter who is behind center. And he has his entire career with the Saints, and he's certainly seen a shitload of QBs over the career, even with his injuries. So this whole idea of like, well, we should keep Jameis in because it makes Olave happy. Miss me with that. Like, that is horrible.
Let me say this.
Needs to get his shit together.
Let me give you a quick interruption, and I'll throw it back to you, though. I think that's a lot of people trying to push their own narrative that they're pushing. You know what I mean? Like, everyone has picked their side of the coin. Everyone's got their dog that they're defending, and they're the ones that they're picking on the whole season. So for the people who don't like Carr, it's an easy out for them to look at it and go, hey, look at how these guys responded to Jameis. Now, the other thing I do want to say is I do think that does exist some with some of the younger players. Like Michael Thomas is a pro's pro. He's a dog no matter what. If one of us was out there throwing the ball, we got down to the 17th quarterback and one of us had to come in. You know what I mean? Like he would run every route 110%. Now, there are a few other receivers on the team that, obviously I don't think they put 100% of the effort in on every play. And it's been documented on television where you can see it. You know what I mean? And I'm not here to call anybody out on that specifically. We've done that enough in the past, but I think there is a difference in mentality between some of the younger players and then some of the older guys. Because Michael Thomas is 29, 30 years old, and he's mentally, he's built differently than these guys. This is that Drew Brees, DeMario Davis, Cam Jordan alpha mentality where it's like, you're going to come in and they're going to bust their ass and give 115% no matter who they're playing, what the record is or any of that. But there are some players in the NFL sprinkled around, especially some on our team that I don't think that same mentality is there.
Yeah. It's just, and I'll close that thought with this. It's like that's why these games bring out the worst takes in the world. And that's why losing brings out the worst takes in the world, the worst attitude out of fans in the world, and the acceptance of the lowest that we should be accepting. We should not be accepting players dictating personnel, which is essentially what you're advocating for if you're taking the whole, well, Jameis makes this person happy and Carr doesn't. You're essentially advocating for someone else's feelings to dictate the personnel on the field and not letting that decision be made by the coach who determines, like, okay, this guy, based on my playbook, gives me the best chance to win. He doesn't turn the ball over as much, yada, yada, yada. And shit, maybe even Taysom Hill is a better option in certain situations than Derek Carr. Certainly higher usage. But, I mean, if you're so down in the weeds about you think that Carr's not the option, or you think that Jameis is the option, like you're missing the forest from the trees when you're saying, look how much happier the team was when Jameis came in. I mean, look, you love to see it. You love to see your players happy. You love to see your players perform. But I also hate to see a team that has a culture that isn't, strong enough to withstand them not seeing the guy they like the most behind center. Go out and play the damn game. And is that an old guy take? Is that an old man take? And we're just going to see more and more of these players coming in? Maybe. But at the end of the day, we're paying these guys way too much money to go play football, and they're getting paid to play based on whoever the coach decides is going to be throwing them the ball. So
it's their job.
I saw everyone. It's terrible. Anyway.
Yeah, and look, that was my issue with the receiver in question for the first half of the year. Like, you are getting paid multi-million dollars to go do a job. It is your job. You get to play a kid's game for a king's ransom. Run the fucking route.
Yep.
Doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
I mean,
Carr, Jameis, Corey, doesn't matter.
By the way, at the end of the game, he did it to Jameis, guys.
Pretty decent spiral.
Yeah, he did. He did do it to Jameis. Corey, you saw that,
He did it to Jameis,
right?
at the end of the game.
What are you talking about?
Olave.
He stopped on a route.
Oh, yeah,
yep.
He
stopped on it yet again. So, all that, all that stuff Corey was talking about people saying, hey, they look at it. I mean, give me a break. No one's on the sidelines. You don't know what they're saying. Maybe they're rallying around the injury. Maybe they just said, we're sick of this shit and we want to go perform better. who knows? Like, we're all grasping for straws because we look so terrible. And I get it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that narrative is just a lot.
It's also fine it's fine for a player to like somebody else on his team better than the other guy on his team. I mean, is it fine for that player to go plastering that all over the team and saying that out loud and messing with team unity? No, of course not. But like, it's human nature to say like, God, Jameis has such an infectious personality that I just as a human being feel better when he succeeds than I do when another guy succeeds. Like, that's fine to have that human emotion, regardless of how much you're getting paid. But don't let that affect your contribution to the team and your contribution to the offense. Go out and play the game. And it just, God, these games just bring out shit like that. And so that's why, like, to me, with the whole fun thing, like, the game itself could have entertaining moments, but what's not fun is knowing that you're a losing team and knowing that these stupid things are issues. And
you know what though? And let me expand on your point that you just made. That's the worst part about it is it's like knowing that this team is not good, but because our division is so bad, we're going to most likely win the division and get a playoff game in spite of having a garbage head coach with a garbage coaching staff with players that have been underperforming. It's infuriating because, as we covered last week, you obviously have to take any division title you can at any point. You take it and run with it whenever you're lucky enough to win a division title. It just sucks that I know we are going to get blown the fuck out of the Superdome in the first round if we make it to the playoffs. I told Nick, I don't care who the opposing team is. If it's the Cowboys, Jesus, I'm going to go ahead and lay like $1,000 on the money line for the Cowboys or whoever the opposing team is and cash that fucking check because they are going to kick the shit out of us.
Yeah, I think
and then we'll run off into the offseason with the 21st or 22nd pick and boom.
It's going to be Dallas almost certainly, right? I mean, I was looking at it.
It was Seattle for a minute. I haven't looked at the most recent one.
It could be. They have the same record. I just think Dallas is, but, Minnesota's still in it. They've only got one more loss. Seattle has the same record as Dallas. So some Dallas, Seattle. I mean, if it's Seattle, maybe, who knows? Rematch with the Vikings, pending the quarterback situation, who knows? But I mean, we got to win the next game if we want the division still. So, I think a lot of it is, I guess, the positive, if you want to look on the bright side, is everything's still in front of them. The downside is I don't think anyone can feel confident that much is progressing. I feel like while the offense has elevated slightly, the defense is definitely compensated by, getting worse at the same time. The offense has moved from the 20s up to 12. This is just by yardage. Defense has gone from 4th down to 10th. So why can't this team have, a cohesive performance? And even when both of them play well, special teams plays terrible. We don't have a team that's playing together right now at the same time. You can't debate that. We don't have a single game other than the Patriots where you would think every unit did their job. So it's really hard to get optimistic about anything we can do. I think it's fair to say, except that everything is still in front of them somehow at 5-5, leading the division. And, you get a home playoff game. If somehow some lightning in a bottle strikes and we start playing together, the last thing I want to talk about real quick is for the first time this year, we got hit with injuries that really might matter with Lattimore and Thomas, both going down. And if Lattimore misses extensive time, the JPP signing's great, but if Lattimore's going to miss 6-8 weeks, we're in deep trouble because that's what's been holding us together. Lattimore, Adebo, Taylor, that combination has what's held the defense together all year, in my opinion. And you take I still say the biggest piece of that equation out, Adebo on the one every time and Taylor moving outside, and then maybe Teron drops in the slot and we bring, switch up the safeties, Lonnie playing more and Howden playing more. Is that going to be okay? I don't know. I don't think any of us know. So, that's a big concern.
You know what's going to happen, though? It's not going to be Alante going to the outside. It'll be Yadam, just like it was when Adebo was out. So it'll end up being Adebo, Yadam, with Alante still in the slot. So most likely scenario. But either way, I agree 110% with you. Marshawn's injury is a potential season just derailment. I mean, this could literally trash the whole season because, as Nick said, every game, with a few rare exceptions, you can trust him to shut down his side of the field. And at that point, you're just hoping that Alante or whoever, Adebo or whoever else is on the field at that point can just cover the other guys. So
yeah, Lattimore's been an absolute luxury because it's not as though people are testing him and he keeps batting the balls down. They're not even going that way.
They're not even going there.
That side of the field just doesn't exist.
Exactly.
They're playing on a half of a field or 2/3 of a field, whatever you want to call it. But yeah,
it's like Revis Island all over again.
Yeah, they don't even want to try it. I mean, Adebo's numbers they're fantastic. I ain't going to take a single thing away from Adebo because that dude has showed up. But, Lattimore's the reason that Adebo's got all these opportunities. And so now
we'll see what happens. But
it'll be interesting to see. Maybe Yadam's numbers will go up. He had at one point he was leading the league in pass defense when he had to play. So
look, he's been solid. He's been solid.
Yep.
Yeah. And look, I'll say this. I know the next couple of weeks, being off this week, hopefully some of these guys can bounce back health-wise quicker than expected. That Falcons game is terrifying the way we played the run the last couple of weeks. If it's Ritter can run. So we're not sure if it's going to be Ritter or if it's going to be Heineke, but that game's looking very, very rough. And then that next game against the Lions, no way in hell I will pick the Saints against the Lions at this point.
That's trouble.
The way our defense has looked, every single team on our schedule, maybe except for the Panthers, looks terrifying. Maybe not the Rams either, but it's just we look so porous and lost and old too.
That's a big thing.
Like Happy Gilmore is old. It's just too old. And, and look, at least we're bringing in a young buck, Jason Pierre-Paul. What's he like, 21 years old?
34 years old.
I know, I'm kidding.
He's older than Cam. He's the oldest defensive lineman we got.
Hey, look, the Saints are just doubling down on the old man football. And at least if you're going to bring in an old guy, at least he's been technically, resting and not actually getting beat up every single week. So there's that. But again, it's like the hoping for fun. It's look at the players being happy with a QB. Those are the things we're talking about in a bad season. We're not talking about how much everyone is playing to their potential or how we're making use of all these. Or did you see that look we did this week? And the look we just when we thought this look was the way to go, we totally changed it up. And the defense was guessing, and our defense is continuing their dominant ways. And of course, the defense had a better second half in the Vikings game because the Vikings were up by 24 points. They shut it down. They parked the car, and of course Jameis did what he did because we had to throw the ball. So it's like people are trying to find the silver linings, but those linings aren't silver.
I love that
in this game. None.
Well, I love that you called it a bad season, and we've all called it a bad season, and we're 5-5 because on a normal season, if you had Sean Payton and let's say we still had Breeze, we were 5-5, we would be like, oh yeah, we are primed. We're about to go on a run. We're going to roll into the playoffs. We're going to steamroll somebody. But then you look at it and it's like Dennis Allen, Derek Carr. Ooh, no. Yeah. We're going to get steamrolled if we make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's why stats and records don't show you everything. If you went to someone, any one of us before the season and said, and shit, we kind of even called this to be the case. We said we could very easily be 5-5 at some point. We could be, as long as we're like, middle of the road, maybe sniffing top 10 on offense. That would be nice. If our defense still continues to just kind of be that top 10 in yards type of defense overall ranking, like, well, shit, we'll be in good shape. And I'm not saying we're not in good shape for the division. We're in great, fortunately, whatever you want to call it, we're in great shape to win the division and make the playoffs. But stats and record, all that shit cannot tell the story of what we've all seen with our eyes with this team. And that's why I'm like, I got no faith in this coaching staff to just kind of, kick these players in the ass and really get them to turn a corner. We're in neutral. It sucks. And like Nick said, I'm usually not this negative. I'm never this negative of a Saints fan, but I have no evidence to base any type of optimistic outlook for this team on. It's just
and
not
to
there.
me, the depressing thing is, you said it, we're still primed to make the playoffs, but where does it go from here? There's no hope at this point. You're going to have Carr and the rest of this team, which is just going to get older, and the defense is just getting older and older. And then you've still got Carr. You got Carr for the next couple of years. There's no beacon of hope to rally behind on this team. You know what I mean? You can't look at it and go, well, we got a young quarterback who's just going to get better. Well, we got a young defense that's just going to get better. We've got an old defense that's just going to get worse. We're, behind the gun on the cap again, which we need to have a fuck Mickey Loomis podcast at some point, because I know, Nick, you and I have thoughts on this.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
Where's the hope? Where's the hope?
There's some. I mean, I would say our secondary, not for this year, I'm saying going forward, to say like we're old. Well, we're like 3 important players old, you know what I mean, on defense. Alante's young. Lat's still got plenty of time left. Yadam's fairly young, I think 27. Adebo's young. Werner's young. Howden.
Yeah, but half of these guys aren't signed over the next 2 years.
I know, but we're going to lose some of those older guys too, presumably, in the contract. So you would think they would keep them. And then Brzee, in his rookie year, has shown signs. Offensively, the young receiving core, if Olave pans out, Shaheed's exciting. Kendre's shown a few signs. It's not like an no future situation, in my opinion. It does mean those guys moving on, a younger quarterback coming to work with these younger players, but there's still a core potentially at the end of this, which I think is the one positive. There's a lot of guys you really like on this team. I actually talk about it all the time. It's just, we are getting old. This window's closing, that's for sure. And it's going to take a reboot with these younger players going forward.
Well, the guys that you and I talk about that we love the most are the old guys. Who are our favorite players on the team right now? Probably Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Honey Badger, Lattimore. With the exception of Lattimore, those guys are fucking old.
Yeah. And I think to me, it's not as much. To me, it's not that I don't look at it as a long-term no hope thing. I mean, long-term, we have issues we need to address, meaning the age of, it is, call it a few or maybe not the majority of them are aging, but they're very key components to what you're trying to do, especially on the defense. But what sucks for me as a fan is that as far as between now and the end of the season goes, I think it's extremely hard to be optimistic about the guys we have, staying healthy, or even if they stay healthy on the injury chart, their ability to perform at a level where, they need to be performing to make this defense work the way we're expecting it to work. I mean, I don't think it's rocket science to look back and see that our best defensive games were earlier in the season, and now we've got a bunch of aging guys. I mean, they're not. It's not for lack of trying. Look, they're playing their tails off, I think, but it's not rocket science to say that like later in the year they're having struggles because maybe they're not hitting their marks as well, or they're not able to withstand the resistance on every single play. So I think as far as this season goes, there's issues. Now, don't get me. I was going to say, don't get me started on the coaching staff. We've more than done gotten started on the coaching staff, but the coaching staff has issues on a long-term picture. The coaching staff has issues for the rest of the year. We're not going to make any changes. We all know that. But I think, like to your point, Max, in years past with Sean Payton, you had any team with Drew Brees. I don't care what team he ever played for, what era of NFL it ever was. You're going to have faith in that team. Especially when you have a coach he gelled with so well with Sean Payton. This team, while it has talent, it's just hard to just rally behind. I mean, I still will. I'll still be that. Well,
no, we all will. But I should have clarified it. My 2-year window is what I'm talking about. The 2-year window looks pretty damn bad at this point. Yeah. Because you got a coaching staff who, you and I have been very vocal in that we do not believe as the coaching staff to get this team where it needs to be, to take this team to the playoffs and beyond. And then you start looking at the players. We don't have a quarterback. We don't. What's the old saying? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. So right now we've got people debating over 2 shitty quarterbacks, which means we have none. So that's the most important position in sports. It doesn't matter if it's the NFL, the NBA, MLB. That is the most important position in sports. We don't have our guy. And then you start looking at the other positions. Kamara's 28, 29. He's up there for a running back. Kendre, we like the small little glimpses, but again, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Jamal Williams, same age as Kamara. Fullback, we're not going to talk about. Wide receiver, we are young there, but we need these guys to get consistent, and, we have our concerns. Tight end, we don't have one. Jawan Johnson's exactly who, I thought he was back in April, and I changed my tune a little bit, after thinking about it, and I was wrong to do that because he's been awful when he's been on the field this year. Offensive lineman, awful. These guys have underperformed, and, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe it's the coaching. But these guys have been terrible considering that 4 out of the 5 projected starting offensive linemen were first-round picks. Defensive line, these guys are getting old other than Brzee. Granderson's still relatively young, and he's performed well, but these guys can't finish sacks at this point. We have to get an infusion on both lines, offensive and defensive. Linebackers, Werner has not been good this year. Like Pete Werner has taken a step back. DeMario is just getting older. That's the only thing negative you can say about him. Corners have been lights out as a group, just the strongest group on the team. We're relatively young at that position as well. So it is sunshine and rainbows at cornerback. Safety, Honey Badgers, dude, he's approaching that time to be old Yellard. You know what I mean? He's not looking that great. I like Jordan Howden. Marcus May won't be on the team in a year and a half, 2 years. And then the punter situation is atrocious. We need to get new kicker and new punter for next year. It's dire.
We sent Max into a full roster recap. He's so frustrated.
I was about to say he's keeping on going. He's going to keep going.
I was going to keep.
But you're not wrong. Yeah, I don't think. Well, I'm not going to nitpick the couple that I might not 100% agree on. But
we can say we'll save that for a later episode.
Yeah. Overall, we've got some exciting stuff coming up. Since we got a bye week, we're going to get some new fun episodes about some topics each of us are kind of excited about that we want to
top 10 Saints, baby, coming up. Top 10 Saints.
Yeah. So we can tell y'all about 2 of them, which are going to be really interesting. Really, the top 10 Saints. We've done top 10 lists before, so the debate will really get going there, especially in that. He's going to embarrass himself and get called out. Of course, I'm going to have a horrible take in the top 10. That's a guarantee. I don't think FanDuel has odds on that, but I would take them if you can find them. We're going to do another one. We're going to do a Saints all-time Saints team playoff bracket. We put it out there on Reddit a while back and kind of got everybody's take on who they thought were the top 6 ever Saints teams, and we found a nice little website that does some pretty fantastic game simulations, play-by-play and everything. So we're going to set up that bracket and run through it for y'all, and y'all can start thinking who you might think takes home the all-time Saints Super Bowl ahead of time. But we got some fun stuff planned.
So we'll get those 2 out to everybody before we do our Atlanta preview next week, and that'll do it for this recap. We'll catch everybody for those 2 fun episodes coming up next, and we look forward to everybody tuning in again. Who dat?
Boom. Who dat?